You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, my friends, my wonderful, amazing friends, and welcome to another episode of the J.D. Rucker Show. I am your host, J.D. Rucker, and as I was telling the pre-show audience, today's show is probably going to be a pretty short one. I can't say that for sure because sometimes I get on a topic and I just keep going and I can't shut up. But I'm planning on this being a short show because I want this shared. I don't want anybody to have the excuse of, I don't want to sit there for 2 or 3 hours listening about this. I want it to be short enough to where they're like, yeah, you know what, let's go ahead and give this a listen. Because the topic is super, ultra, mega important. We're talking about destroying the filibuster. And obviously, the primary reason, I don't want to be coy here and pretend like there's a bigger reason, but the primary reason that we need to kill the filibuster is because we need to pass the Save America Act, and we just can't do it with the filibuster in place. We need the Save America Act. America needs the Save America Act. This isn't about Republican versus Democrat. This is about what's right. And this is why the American people, 80%, endorse coming into the 21st century, just like pretty much every other nation in the world. We're the only ones that are stuck with 20th century version of election rules, and we're the only place where we gotta count the votes. It's gonna take us take us a month to count the votes. That's not right. That ain't right, and it's done for a reason. We've talked about that. I'm not going to get into California's stupid rules, but just trying to say, we got to get the Save America Act passed, so we got to end the filibuster. That hasn't worked. It has not worked. John Thune has not budged, not an inch. President Trump has issued demands. Other members of the Senate have told him what to do, how to do it. We've tried to compromise, say, okay, fine, let's at least do the standard talking filibuster, the way the filibuster was always supposed to be, instead of this whole, can't get to cloture, done, out, see ya. No, that's not. There are already enough shortcuts in the U.S. Senate. You don't need another one. And again, he keeps saying, we've got important legislation that we've got to get passed, and the American people aren't going to be happy if we're sitting there wasting weeks or months trying to get the Save America Act passed. No, we're okay with you not passing anything until you get this passed. As a matter of fact, I would say many, if not most of us, would prefer that. So if you want to go down the road of the talking filibuster, the real filibuster, the filibuster by definition, okay, I don't like it. It's not fast enough for me. I'm impatient, but so be it. No. What we need is the full-blown filibuster removal. And so I'm taking a different approach today. We're not just going to be talking about end the filibuster and pass the Save America Act. We're going to talk about other things, other reasons, other things that we can accomplish, that John Thune can accomplish, that he could put on his record, his resume, his legacy, whatever, things that'll be like, oh my gosh, Wikipedia 2048 will be like, look at what John Thune did. He fought it until he kept pushing against ending the filibuster to try to maintain some stupid Senate traditions, and then he ended up finally letting it go, and he became a hero because he got this passed, he got this passed, he got this passed. John Thune, you can be a hero, or you can be a zero, an idiot, a footnote in history, known as what will amount to the worst and stupidest Senate Majority Leader of all time. Because once you're no longer Senate Majority Leader, and it's Graham Plattner or somebody like that, their first thing they're going to do, of course, is what? And the filibuster, and then you'll look like an idiot, a fool. And he knows this, by the way, to be clear. Let's not be naive here. He knows this. He wants this. This isn't a matter of John Thune trying to protect the integrity of the Senate. Oh my gosh, we got such tradition and history. We gotta. No, this is because he is a member of the uniparty swamp. He is what I like to call the Republican manager in the Senate. He's sort of like a middle manager in the whole swamp thing. It's like, okay, Johnny, you're gonna fill in for Mitch McConnell. We've pumped him full of bee pollen and everything else, and It's just not going to last. We squeeze as much out of that guy as possible. Now we need another puppet, and you're the guy. You're the puppet. You're the one who's going to do exactly what we say. And exactly what they're telling him is that he absolutely positively cannot end the filibuster because they want the Democrats to be able to end the filibuster so that they can help to destroy the United States of America. That's how important this is, folks. In case there's any ambiguity here, this isn't just a matter of, oh, we got to get voter ID pass. Yes, that's super important. But we also have to stop the Democrats from being able to do what they will do once they end the filibuster. Lest we forget. Okay, this is any argument says, oh, they won't end the filibuster. Oh, they already tried. Okay, they would have ended the filibuster if it wasn't for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. They only needed one of them to flip too. Praise God that they both stuck to their guns. And what happened to them? They're gone. They're out. And I would argue that even though they both technically left of their own accord, that they were pushed out. They were given offers that they couldn't refuse, and so they left. To get out of the way so that the Democrats, when they're back in power, could end the filibuster with a Democrat president, and then it's over. It's toast. Sayonara. Bye-bye. No more America. I'm not trying to be over the top here. That's just what's going to happen. So, switching tactics. Not just going to... We've already... 80% of America has already declared the need, the desire, the efficacy of the Save America Act. That's not enough. No, not enough to sway the influence of the uniparty swamp over John Thune. So, let's give some more ammunition to President Trump, to Ron Johnson, to Mike Lee, to Dan Bongino and Wendy Bell and all the people out there. So we're going to go through 7 things. 7, and there's more. But these are 7 pieces of legislation that America needs. 7 pieces of legislation that can and almost certainly would pass if we got rid of the filibuster. These are things that, again, make sense. Some of them are bipartisan. Make sense across the board. Others are Republican priorities. But these are all things that America desperately needs. Now, quick, short programming note. I have been challenged lately with partitioning out the show, doing 2 hours straight and then trying to get the chunks that I need for this podcast or that podcast has been challenging. So we are adding partitions. We're adding partitions to the show. And these partitions will be cues that will alert me of a break, a partition, right? So I might come to the end of a segment and you might see something like this.
You got the moves. I'll give you that.
I've got the moves. And he gave it to me. That's awesome. So we're going to be doing those and hoping that I don't get flagged on any of the other various platforms out there. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You can't post the Rock or whoever. Speaking of which, I've always said, not always, but I've just want to get this out there, put this on public record. We always have these remakes and we have these sequels, and there's been this recent trend of old movies that need sequels. And it's usually a popular movie and then they make the sequels awful. Don't even get me started on Ghostbusters. I made it about, I don't know, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. It's like, whoa, out of here. See ya. Where's the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man? Yeah, no, but there's one movie that I would love to see a sequel to, and that was it. That movie was this.
You got the moves. I'll give you that.
It's called it was it's funny. I know, and now I don't even remember the name of it. Is it The Rundown? Let me look. I think it's called The Rundown. 2003. There it is. The Rundown, starring the Rock and Sean William Scott. And you might be thinking, 23 years later, what would the movie be about? Well, the movie ends with them sort of partnering up, right? It's like, okay, well, he's he can become like a PI, hitman, whatever, skip tracer or something, and the chemistry between them was just really good. It's very funny, and I would love to see a sequel. Maybe Sean William Scott's character betrays him shortly after the end of the first one, and the Rock's Dwayne Johnson's character has been in jail for the last 25 years, and now he's got to go hunt down for his revenge, or I don't know, something. It was good. It was a good movie. Okay, it was a decent movie, but I'd still love to see a sequel. All right, that's enough messing around. So yeah, you will get the occasional movie clip, or maybe I'll just throw in a swoosh. The intention there is not to annoy. The intention is just to make sure that I have partitions, so it makes it exponentially easier to then go through and post edit and pull out the stuff that I need. That's it. So don't. Somebody said, Talk Wombat says Spaceballs. You know what? That's got to go on the list. I need to have some Spaceballs quotes. She's gone from no, we won't have that one. But so much potential here. All right, let's get into it. Before we get started with this list, and again, there's seven items that we need to discuss today. Seven pieces of legislation, 7 issues that I think we can pass if we get rid of the filibuster, and maybe we can use this as more ammunition to get John Thune to do the right thing. And it's not just John Thune, to be fair. It's not like John Thune can say, okay, fine, get rid of the filibuster. We have to convince the naysayers. We know of 4 of the naysayers: Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, who's not even in the Senate today or right now, and Tom Tillis, all on their way out. Bill Cassidy has demonstrated yesterday, even after yelling at President Trump, he has demonstrated a willingness to do the right thing. He reversed himself on the War Powers Act, which is, it's probably the most respectable and honorable thing I've ever heard of him doing. It's good. It's good news. Rand Paul reversed, of course, because something that President Trump told him. I'm sure it has to do with, look, we're negotiating with Iran. I'm not gonna go bomb them unless they come out of this, but you're hurting my ability to negotiate by signaling to Iran that Congress, my own party's against me. They're going to use that as leverage, and they are. They will. They have been. So you guys reverse. I'm not going to invade. You don't need to do anything. I'll let you know if they're breaking the deal, and we got to go start bombing them again. But until then, reverse your vote. And to Bill Cassidy's immense credit, he did. Rand Paul, of course, did, because Rand Paul is smart and pragmatic. Bill Cassidy he could have played the role of jaded ex-girlfriend, right? Trump didn't endorse him. He lost his primary. He's out of the Senate next year. That sucks for him. It's great for us. Sucks for him, though. He could have just said, no, I'm going to continue to vote against you, you meanie. But no, he played the adult role. So hopefully he's got plans to do something. I'd love to see him do other things, just not in the U.S. Senate. I don't think Bill Cassidy's a bad guy. There are definitely some bad guys in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, John Thune, for example. But I don't think that Bill Cassidy's a bad guy. I think he was just a rhino and a very ineffective senator. So there's nothing personal. And I'm glad to see that he's not taking it too personally. But let's assume that you got those 4, McConnell, Collins, Murkowski, and Tillis. Tillis, nothing we can do with him. He's on his way out. McConnell, nothing we can do with him. He's on his way out. Murkowski, she's got 4 more years until her next elect 4. I think 4. And then Susan Collins is currently in cycle. So, to get rid of the filibuster, assuming those are the only 4, then we just need one of them. We just need one plus J.D. Vance, and we can end the filibuster. Don't forget, it's not like a law. It's not in the Constitution or anything like that. This is just a Senate rule, okay? So we only need a majority. They can't filibuster a Senate rule. They can't filibuster the filibuster, basically, or the removal. So that's the logistics behind it. We have to convince John Thune to put on the table. We've got to convince the other 48. If there's any dissenters in there, Rand Paul might be in favor of the filibuster. He might need some coaxing. Others might be John Cornyn. You never know. He might have that jaded ex-girlfriend motif going on. There are other possibilities, but we know that the 4 that are against the Save America Act are also almost certainly against ending the filibuster. We just need to get one of them to flip over, and that one is almost certainly going to be Susan Collins. which is funny because as a quote unquote pro-abortion Republican, she's one that I'm not going to like a couple of probably one item on this list, and that's the one item that I would say is negotiable. Now, I want to be clear. I have always been a fan of the filibuster. I've never wanted to remove the filibuster. Never in the past have I been in favor of removing the filibuster. It does play an important role in stopping the tyranny of the majority, right? That's kind of a concept that has benefited us for decades. But things have changed. Two very important things have changed. Number one is that this isn't the same Senate. This isn't the same political structure that we've ever had in the past. It was not very long ago, folks, where there was a lot of bipartisanship, especially in the Senate. Now, I didn't like it. I'll admit it. I didn't like that there was this bipartisanship because I want to be a little bit more, a lot more conservative than past Senates. But it did favor us greatly when it came to getting certain pieces of legislation sort of toned down. If the Democrats had control, which they've had control a whole lot over the last few decades, if they had control, then having the filibuster enabled Republicans to be able to work in, tone down some of the Democrat stuff and maybe work in some of the Republican stuff. It was the best that we had, right? But we can't do that anymore. The filibuster is just a death sentence to literally every piece of legislation that's even a smidgen political, a smidgen partisan. Democrats will unify against it 100% of the time, and vice versa, which means that the only way that you could ever get anything that's controversial in the Senate, the only way you can get it passed is through reconciliation, so it has to be budget-oriented, and technically you're only supposed to be able to do that once a year, right? We're doing it twice in 1 year because we have to, but that's not always going to be easy or the case. So you can get it done through that, or you can get it done through a supermajority of 60. Basically, you got to be able to get enough members of the Republican or Democrat Party in the Senate to break 60, which is very, very challenging. Now, I would argue, here's the funny part. Here's the funny part. If we were to pass the Save America Act, I would imagine that by 2030 or 2032, that we would actually have 60 or more Republican senators. Democrats know this. John Thune knows this. That's the direction that we would be able to go if we could eliminate the massive widespread voter fraud that has kept Democrats in power for a very long time. Voter fraud didn't start in 2020, to be clear. Okay, let's just get that on record. To some extent, voter fraud has been around and available across the country since the beginning of time. At least the beginning of America. Different variations of voter fraud existed in the very first election, and they just grew. They've just grown to this gargantuan thing. And then after the 2020 election, the 2000 election, that's when it's like, oh, we need something to account for the hanging chads that put George Bush in office. So we got to go to this different system. And oh my gosh, you mean we can go digital? And then it's just been downhill from there. Then COVID happened. It's like, oh my gosh, we just got to keep everybody masked and just keep them home. Don't even have them come out and vote. Just mail ballots to everybody. Mail everybody. Get them all ballots. Of course, that was intended to perpetuate voter fraud. How do we know this? Because it still exists. COVID's gone. The voting rules from COVID are still there, which means that it was never about COVID. It was all about controlling votes, controlling elections, putting in the people that the uniparty swamp wants. And the only way to beat that is to win by a margin that's just too big to rig, as President Trump famously said and proved with the 2024 election. So I've always been a fan of the filibuster, but it doesn't make sense for reason number one, because in this current super polarized partisan atmosphere that we live in today in America, we'll never get anything, nothing. Nothing can ever pass outside of reconciliation with the filibuster in place. Number two, at least nothing that's that's even a little bit partisan, I should say. Reason number two, and this is the big one, again, is that they being the Democrats, will eliminate the filibuster at the next available opportunity. The next time they have control of the Senate, they will eliminate the filibuster. John Fetterman's the only one who might vote against it, which means all they need is 52 if during President Trump's term, or if they get a Democrat vice president, then they would just need 51 plus, with Fetterman included in that 51, in order to get rid of the filibuster. Then it's done. Then it's over. Then it's over. And like I said, if it wasn't for Sinema, wasn't for Manchin, they would have done it already. So as somebody who has supported the existence of the filibuster, I can now say beyond any doubt, beyond any, make sure it's completely unambiguous, I no longer support the filibuster. Now, and I'm sure a lot of you can argue. I'll check the chats during the next break to see what people are saying. But yeah, for those of you who are okay with, or at least partially agree with me, that we need to eliminate the filibuster, today's show, I'm going to go through at least 6, maybe 7. I'll just go ahead and, so that there's no spoiler. Number 7, if we get to it, if we have enough time, is the Save America Act. And the only reason I put that as number 7 is not just because it is definitely the most important piece of legislation that we've had on the table in modern American history, which it is. It is a national security issue, not just an election issue, not just a Republican issue. It is a national security issue. It is that important. I'm saving it for the last because, yeah, I mean, it is important, but we've also talked about it ad nauseum, and I don't think any of you need to be convinced that the Save America Act makes sense. So, well, and again, if time allowing, I'll talk about it. But in the meantime, don't want to beat that particular dead horse. Let's find some more horses to kill, and then we'll beat those. Here are six of them. 6 pieces of legislation that we could never get passed as long as the filibuster's there, and that we could almost certainly pass if the filibuster gets removed. The basic tenets of federalism have kept this nation afloat for a very long time, despite all of the push to federalize pretty much everything. This has been happening since the Civil War. It's continued on through FDR. Really took a shot in the arm under Barack Obama, and of course, any time Democrats have control, they start to try to federalize everything. The 10th Amendment is very clear, I think, but apparently it's not, because we seem to always blur those lines. Cities should be able to have their ordinances, same with counties. States should have their laws, and that should be the bulk of what governs the people. The federal government shouldn't be able to get involved in very much. With that said, there are certain things where common sense and logistics do apply. For example, it would really, really, really suck if we had to go get a driver's license in every single state that we traveled. Getting from New York to California, imagine having to stop at the DMV every state that you cross into. It would take weeks to go from one coast to the other. And then, of course, renewals would be a nightmare. What about marriage licenses? That would suck. You're married in Florida, but you're not married in Georgia. Wow. That would really suck. Adoption. Adoption's one that they talk about a lot. If you adopt your child in Texas, that child is still your child once you go to Oklahoma. These are common sense things, which is why concealed carry reciprocity makes a lot of sense. They've already gone through all of the hoops, regardless of which state they're in. They've gotten their background checks. They've done their required training. They are capable of carrying a firearm, concealing it, in the state of Tennessee, and therefore they should be able to do that wherever they travel. And that's been a very popular stance, of course, with the Republican Party. We've been talking about it for decades, and yet it has never happened for one reason, and one reason only: the filibuster. According to the article we have, this is over at jdrucker.com. Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act would fix all of our challenges with these licenses, the multiple licenses that you need in order to properly carry across the state lines. It requires every state that issues carry permits to honor the permits issued by every other state, exactly the way they already honor driver's licenses. Now notice, this doesn't force concealed carry licenses onto states that don't have concealed carry available. So this isn't like, oh my gosh, the federal government is imposing itself upon these states that want to be nannies and get rid of all the guns. No, it doesn't do that. This is about states that have concealed carry laws. That's all. Doesn't even ask them to change their laws, just asks them to honor the concealed carry permits from everybody else. This is common sense stuff. And again, this falls under the category of highly, highly popular amongst the people. It's not like 80% or anything like that, but it's over 50%. Once people, especially when they understand exactly what's entailed here, and once they understand that it does not supersede a state's own laws, no problem. This should be a no-brainer. This should be bipartisan. Unfortunately, it's not, because it says the word gun in it, so Democrats are terrified. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be one of those Second Amendment freaks, at least not in the eyes of the voters. They want their guns. They want to be able to carry, of course. They just don't want you to be able to carry. The House has passed a version of this bill before. It dies in one place only, of course, the U.S. Senate, where it cannot clear the 60-vote threshold no matter how many Americans support it. A simple majority of senators would vote yes tomorrow. We would get 53 votes for it. At least, maybe 54. But we can't, because 54 is not enough. We can't get past cloture. The filibuster is the only thing standing between a permit holder and the freedom to travel through their own country without fear of arrest. Here's the part that the holdouts in our own conference need to hear, holdouts against ending the filibuster. The Second Amendment is not a regional privilege. It does not stop at the Hudson River or the Mississippi. A right that evaporates the moment you leave your home state is not a right at all. It is a license granted at the pleasure of whichever governor you happen to be standing in front of. National reciprocity restores the plain meaning of shall not infringe, or be infringed, sorry. Yeah, they shouldn't be infringing, to citizens who have done everything the law has asked of them. And make no mistake about the stakes. The other side has already told us in public, they've made this declaration, Democrats have said that they intend to abolish the filibuster, of course, the moment that they have the gavel, and to pass an assault weapons ban. That's on the top of their list. They are not hiding it, so the choice in front of the Senate is not whether the filibuster survives. It is whether we use this window to protect the right to bear arms, or if we sit on our hands and wait for the Democrats to strike first. They will strike first if we don't strike first. This isn't even close to being debatable. You can yell at John Thune all you want about how, but John, you have the power. You're the Senate Majority Leader. Can't you get your caucus in line? And he'll be like, oh no, it's the math. We just don't have the math. We need to start hitting them with more than just one act. We need to start hitting them with multiple acts, including the Reciprocity Act. This is something that, again, a good, strong majority of Americans believe in. We want it. So let's do it. Get rid of the filibuster today. If you're like me and you love the 10th Amendment, you love federalism, you love the idea of reducing the impact of the federal government on our lives, then you will love my friends over at America First Healthcare. Check them out at jdrucker.com/health, jdrucker.com/health, and they have more than just healthcare. They have a whole bunch of non-Obamacare services and products, and just get a free quote. I mean, that's it. Just go. You can save money. Why not? Check it out. It doesn't obligate you to anything. Just get a free quote. Fill out the form. Get a quote. jdrucker.com/health. Speaking of the 10th Amendment, speaking of federalism, even beyond reciprocity, there is an even more clear, a constitutionally delineated version of laws that have been an abomination here in the United States for the past 4 decades. That is the Department of Education. The way that we have it set up, thanks to Jimmy Carter, is one that it's destructive. This isn't just, we're not being maximally efficient at educating our children. No, we're failing them miserably. And that is a direct result of the Department of Education. Now, President Trump, Linda McMahon, they have tried. They've talked about it. They've threatened. They've done some things. But this is all through executive action, which means that it's nothing. It is any quote unquote progress that we make with eliminating, restructuring, or reducing the size of the Department of Education is strictly done at the whims of whoever's in the Oval Office, which means that, yes, can we start to, quote unquote, fix things with Linda McMahon and with President Trump? You betcha. Will they stick? Nope, not a bit. And I would argue that whoever the next Democrat president is, they will actually make that part of their thing. They're going to say, oh my gosh, we're going to reverse what President Trump did to the Department of Education. We're going to bring education back to the United States of America. Now, of course, generally, your average voter is going to think, oh, okay, so the Department of Education must be good. President Trump and Linda McMahon were gutting it, so we're going to bring it back, and this is going to help the children. Why? By bringing it back to where it was, it has been an abomination. Education in the United States of America, especially public education, is disturbingly bad. I mean, it's not even close. It is so bad that schools today, if they're able to flatline their scores, that's a win. Okay? If their scores are not in decline, if they're somehow able to muster enough educational juice to keep kids reading and doing math and knowing their history at a just even a flatline level, not improving it, just keeping it out of decline, that is a huge victory. Oh my gosh, they deserve Teacher of the Year. They deserve School of the Year, School District of the Year. They're amazing. Everybody needs to latch on and follow them. And that's usually what ends up happening, by the way, just to be clear, is that anytime there's any level of success, the Department of Education comes in and says, well, let's figure out what this school in Nebraska did. And based on what we learn from our 2-week study, sending in three analysts to sit there and take notes and then come back and have some lunches and talk about it, and we'll then apply what worked in that school in Nebraska to the entire nation. This is their logic, or we should call it, this is their illogic, their lack of logic, because there's nothing logical about that. Kids are different everywhere. Schools are different everywhere. States are different everywhere. There's a reason why, based upon the 10th Amendment, it should be the states that have the most control from a legal perspective over education. Now, the reality, if we're talking real world, okay, and I like talking real world, you know that, in the real world, if I could wave my magic wand, yes, of course, the Department of Education at the federal level would be gone. But I would also weaken the departments of education across the various states. Right now, it's in reverse. Department of Education at the federal level sends down decrees to the departments of education at the state level, which go down to the counties and the cities, which go down to the school districts, which then, by that time, it's so diluted, if it even makes it to the parents to tell them what's going to be done to their children, yeah, it's hit or miss. We need to flip that completely over. It should be that the parents make the most important, the vast majority of the decisions. Sure, there can be default things, but if a parent should have to opt in or opt out of pretty much everything. I'm talking about curriculum. I'm saying that if you were to apply this to parents and allow them to pick, a lot of them won't. Maybe even most of them wouldn't. Most of them would go with whatever's the default, because we got a lot of bad parents, let's face it. But a lot of parents would actually take a very sincere interest. They might even volunteer. They might participate. They would definitely do more at home. How do you get parents involved? By getting them involved. And still giving the option. I mean, again, some parents don't want to get involved. Some parents we wouldn't want to necessarily get too involved. Granted. Because again, just as not all children are the same, not all parents are the same. But it should. That's where the major decision making should happen. Then it goes down from the parents down to the school districts, and from the school districts down to the cities and counties, and from the cities and counties down to the state departments of education, which their only role should really be about making sure to act as a safety net. Okay, make sure that the kids are getting enough education. If they're not, then they can come in and try to figure it out. but only if there's a problem. Only if after every single other degree, now we still got a problem, because then you can use the State Department of Education to determine, okay, well, this school district, they're just doing it wrong. Maybe there's corruption there. Maybe they need to be investigated. Maybe the superintendent is just an idiot. Who knows? But as long as you put them at the bottom and nothing below them, no federal Department of Education, hey, maybe we could actually reverse this. Unfortunately, the only way that we could do that is by abolishing the Department of Education, or at the very least, if we don't want to get too extreme here, at the very least, restructuring it and diminishing it, making it more of an advisory board than anything else. Of course, Democrats won't do that. This is why we can't get around the filibuster for this. It's not because they actually, in their hearts, believe that the Department of Education does anything positive for education. It's because the Department of Education does something positive for teachers' unions. And of course, teachers' unions do a whole lot of positive for Democrats. This is, again, if you were to take this and explain it to your average voter, I would say a majority of Democrats would agree. I would say this is one of those scenarios, one of those issues where, with the appropriate knowledge, without the spin, with just the reality, just the facts, here's the stats, here's what's happened over the last 40 years, here's the results, here's what we're proposing, here's what we believe will happen as a result of this. Boom. We give more of the power to the parents, more of the power to the local school district where it belongs, and pull away the power from the states, not pull it away and give it to the federal government, make it to where the states are still just, again, advising and watching over, and maybe filling in the gaps for the local school districts. Let the school districts decide. Make them compete. Make it to where a school district isn't just, oh, we're stuck here, everybody's stuck with us. So, well, what are they going to do? Leave? No, there's so many things we can do to improve education. So many things. But the most important thing at this point is to just get rid of the federal Department of Education, or at the very least weaken it. And the only way that we can do that is by getting rid of the filibuster, because Democrats will never support it. While we have an opportunity, while we have a president that'll sign it, and a House and a Congress that'll give us a majority on it, we need to pass legislation to reduce. We'll call it the Department of Education Reduction Act. That'd be REDA. Right? No, Department of Education. Anyway, I need my own education. That's not REDA. Wow. How embarrassing. Yeah. Either way, the logic here, the logical thing to do is to just scrap the Department of Education altogether.
The cadet's logic is sound.
It's got to go. It's just got to go, period. Let's see what people are saying about teachers' unions support Democrats. Yep, as I said. One of the reasons I voted for Trump is to get rid of the Department of Education. Yes, that was an important one. But, I mean, again, it's unfortunate because it did get codified, and it was, forgive my timeline if it's incorrect, Carter executive ordered it. Then it was codified in like 81, I think. But yeah, that's no good. Thank you, Rosebud. You really should check it out. Promise Grounds Coffee. jdrucker.com/coffee. Greatest coffee in the world, and yes, it is a Christian company. You get these cool. They have these cups there too. You can buy, and they sent me. I should find. I don't know where I put it. I drank it to the nubs. Yeah, bad stuff there. Let's see. Oh, good. Yeah. Answer the question. So, week before, this is regarding to the Wendy Bell scenario situation. We do have to obviously support her. Yes, she's going up against some stiff competition, but she's been there before, and I think she will do just fine. She does pick up more radio, of course, as a result. I will be guest hosting for her the final week of her current time slot, and then the following week she shifts and we shift too. We're going to come in, move our show to still begin immediately after the Wendy Bell show ends. So So yeah, I'm in lockstep with them. Talked to Brock last night. Super excited about doing it all earlier. I remember when first time I guest hosted for, I had to do it. I'm out here in California, so I had to wake up. I'm going back and forth with Brock at like 4 a.m. just to get ready for the show for California time. So we'll get a little bit closer to that. And I am an early morning person. I generally wake up at approximately 2ish. So yeah, so there's that. Thanks, Doc. Wombat. JD definitely does need a Brock. I do. I need a Brock of my own. I love working with Brock, but he won't help me. He can't. He is a very busy man, and so I need to find me a Brock. Maybe we can just get The Rock to be my Brock. Filibuster. Got to get rid of it. Got to kill it. Kill it as quickly as possible. I'm thinking, do I go to break now or do I squeeze in one more? We're trying to keep it short today, so let's squeeze in one more. This is perfect. So it's a two-parter. Yeah. So, and you can always follow all of this, by the way. Just go to jdrucker.com. Articles titled 7 Amazing Pieces of Legislation the GOP could pass if they eliminate the filibuster. Yes, it's a 3,000-word article, but that's what I've been pulling off of. And that's what I'll be continuing to pull off of the rest of the show. I do jump order because it just made sense. After I wrote it, I'm going through and it's like, why would I split up the two abortion pieces of legislation? Why wouldn't I just keep those together? So yeah, might as well keep them together. Speaking of which, let's talk about baby murder. I know I'm bouncing around a bit today, but this is important stuff. And what could be more important than life? What could be more important than the life of the most vulnerable? Of course, I'm talking about babies. Now, as much as I would love, pardon me, as much as I would love to completely ban all forms of abortion here in the United States of America. I know I'm an extremist, right? I guess. But I'm practical. I'm pragmatic. I realize that that's probably not going to happen. Even if you got rid of the filibuster, you still couldn't get a ban of abortions across the board done at a federal level. Couldn't get it done. And if you did, it would almost certainly get overturned in court. But then again, you never know. I mean, look, I would have said, just a few years ago, I would have said that the chances of us seeing Roe v. Wade overturned in my lifetime were pretty much nil. And then it happened. Praise God that it happened. Now, there's a lot more work to do, and we haven't been doing it. I can go off on the pro-life movement, conservative movement, Republicans all day about that. But we're not gonna go all the way to oh my gosh, ban everything. No, let's keep it simple. What about just what about just legislation that says that if a baby is born alive, during an attempted abortion, that the baby is alive and should be kept alive? Sort of makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, even if the baby ends up getting adopted, awesome, great, it's there. He or she is there, living, breathing, and that baby should not be left to die. Now, Democrats will say that, infanticide is already illegal, so we can't do it, except there's no enforcement of it, and this is why it still happens. This is why today there are failed abortions that happen, and babies who are alive when they come out of their mother, who didn't want them, those babies are left to die. They say, oh, that never happens. They're telling us that doesn't happen at all, ever, anywhere. Never in Virginia, never in Pennsylvania. Wait, yeah, well, okay, well, it shouldn't happen. We don't need a national law for that. That's what the Democrats will say. It's rare, they'll say. Of course, one life, if it's, say, George Floyd's life, oh my gosh, burn it all down over George Floyd's life, but an innocent baby, that's just a statistic. It's a rare occurrence. Got to get rid of the filibuster. Got to get rid of the filibuster. If we strip away every argument about abortion for a moment and consider a very narrow question, something happens. The child is born breathing with a heartbeat fully outside of the womb after a failed abortion attempt. Does that infant deserve the same medical care any other newborn would receive? The answer is obviously yes. Obviously yes. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act says it should. It does not ban a single abortion. It does not say, oh my gosh, we're going to impose abortion bans on. No, it just says that if the baby's born alive, you treat that baby like a baby. Should be common sense. This act does not overturn anything. It simply requires that a baby who survives be given the ordinary care a doctor would give any other living child. This is not a radical bill. It is arguably the most modest pro-life measure Congress has ever considered. It's a no-brainer. And yet, in early 2025, Senate Democrats blocked it from even advancing. The motion died short of 60 votes. It got filibustered. The House then passed its own version, where it now sits, waiting for a Senate that cannot move it. A clear majority of senators support protecting these infants. The filibuster is the reason a born, breathing child has fewer protections in federal law than the political convenience of those who would rather not take the vote. The opposition calls the bill redundant. They say that infanticide is already illegal, so why legislate it? But a law without enforcement is only a suggestion, and one that very few people take. And this bill adds the teeth, a clear standard of care, and real consequences for violating it. If the act truly changes nothing, which is what the Democrats say, then there's no reason to filibuster it. Oh, you don't want something redundant. When has a Democrat ever not wanted something to be redundant? They live in redundancy and retardation. Don't get me started. The fact that they spent political capital to kill a bill they call meaningless tells you exactly how meaningful it really is. And again, if it saves one life. A nation is judged by how it treats the most defenseless among us. And there is no one more defenseless than a newborn who cannot speak, cannot move, and depends entirely on the conscience of the adults in the room. 60 votes should never stand between the child and a doctor's basic duty to care. With the filibuster gone, this protection becomes law with a simple majority, and the only question is why anyone would ever object. There's no reason to object to it. Again, this comes down to very similar to with gun laws. Even a gun law that makes absolute total sense and doesn't add not a single additional gun or round into the system. All it doesn't add an additional gun holder. All that would do is just make it to where, hey, yeah, so you don't have to do something stupid over and over and over again, just like trying to get a driver's license for every city. Well, this one falls into the same basic category of it's a no-brainer. I keep saying that. I can't think of a better word. This is ridiculous that we're even having this discussion. This is just another reason why we should absolutely positively get rid of the filibuster. And it's the type of bill that even the pro-abortionists like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski on the Republican side, they can at least accept this. There is one bill that they probably would not accept, but we might not need them, because if we can get everybody else on the GOP side to approve it and get rid of the filibuster, then we can do what we should have done, which should never have even been an issue, and that is to permanently defund Planned Parenthood. Every year, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars flow to Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the United States, and also, by the way, one of the largest donors to Democrats in the United States from a corporate level. Money is fungible. Every federal dollar that covers their, quote-unquote, their rent, their staff, their overhead, okay, this is how they're able to get around the law, is by saying, oh, no, we're not taking money for abortions. We're taking money for other things. But because money is fungible, it's just, you take money that's earmarked for rent. Okay, you pay rent. What happens with the money that you were going to use to pay rent? Yeah, that's used to kill and murder preborn babies. For decades, the many Americans who object to subsidizing the abortion industry with their own taxes have asked a simple thing: stop sending our money there. Just stop. Take away the abortion aspect of it, and they're still just a Democrat. I mean, why are taxpayers paying to fund Democrat campaigns? It's exactly what's happening. With the fungible dollars that are sent to them, that's exactly what is happening. Oh, and by the way, they also murder a bunch of babies. For decades, the simple request has been denied. It has been denied not because the votes aren't there. We've already passed it with the Reconciliation Act before, which is coming due in next week and a half. So, and I don't, unless they pull a miracle out, which I don't think they will, but you never know. We can pray for it. Planned Parenthood will be receiving funds once again. We'll see how that goes. A Senate majority would redirect the funding to the thousands of community health centers that provide women's health care. Actual women's health care, not baby murder, health care for women, pregnant or not, without having to perform abortions. Facilities that outnumber Planned Parenthood clinics many times over. The money would not vanish. It would go to genuine, comprehensive care. The only obstacle is the filibuster. Reconciliation has allowed Congress to chip at the edges of this funding, but a clean, permanent defunding bill, one that doesn't expire, one that can't be quietly restored in the next budget cycle, requires regular legislation. And regular legislation dies with the filibuster. So the funding survives year after year, not because the country demands it, but because the Senate's own rules protect it. This is the heart of the larger argument against the filibuster. Again, granted, this might be if this is the one item that stops, for example, Susan Collins from being willing to vote to remove the filibuster. If she'll say she'll remove the filibuster as long as this bill isn't on there, that sucks. But so be it. This is the one item on the list that, even though it's super important and even though we could definitely get it done if we remove the filibuster, I'd be okay with kicking the can down the road. Just this one time. Just this one. Everything else on the list, we need it. We need it. We need it. We need it. We need this too. But again, this might be the one that stops all of it, and that's just not worth the trade-off. We have to be realistic. We have to be aggressive. We have to be patriotic. We have to be Christians. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, we need to be faithful, yes. But we also have to at least try. And if we can get the filibuster undone and keep this bill off of Susan Collins' radar, it's a win-win.
Oh, you're going to love it. Love it.
You're going to love it. I am very happy, very blessed to have as one of my best sponsors ever, MyPillow. MyPillow has been a sponsor since the very beginning of the J.D. Rucker Show, way back in, 2021? So I've been with them for 5 years. Mike Lindell's awesome. MyPillow is awesome. Their slippers are awesome. Their towels are awesome. Everything's awesome. We love them. So go check them out. MyPillow.com/JDR. Use promo code JDR and get the maximum possible discount. Back to the reciprocity real quick. Supreme Court just ruled that the vampire rule is unconstitutional. For those who don't know, Hawaii had this thing where they were trying to basically, the vampire rule, if you have a concealed carry permit, that you have to get explicit permission from a business owner in order to exercise your Second Amendment right. Well, the Supreme Court 6-3 voted that down today. Praise God for that. According to Alito, Alito's been writing I'm so happy. He's been writing at least two of the judgments that I've seen today came from his office. Hawaii's law at issue here violates the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. This regime hobbles what the Second Amendment protects, the right of Americans to carry arms for self-defense as they go about their daily lives. So, big victory there. We've had a few victories, a couple defeats too from the Supreme Court. This is what's going to happen, and that's why I'm not tackling the Supreme Court today. Get the legislation. Okay, legislation is a lot harder for the Supreme Court or anybody to overturn than an executive order. Executive orders are a piece of paper that can just be stopped. And even, we're talking about defunding Planned Parenthood. Even the way that it's worded, it ends July 4th. Okay? The reconciliation package that was included in the big beautiful bill act, right? That's how we were able to get defunding Planned Parenthood done before. But as of, it only lasts until July 4th. And so far, they have been unable to get it Unable to get it fixed. Jay Hertz says Lindell was right about the Dominion machines. He sure was. He sure was. They stopped. They stopped suing him because I have my theories. I don't want to get sued by Dominion. They sue everybody. I have my theories that they figured that through discovery they'd get busted. Anyway, Jay Harris also asked, why can't they just use the talking filibuster? Because they know it'll work. Again, don't forget, and I know a lot of you have said this in the chats, that don't forget that John Thune doesn't want it passed. He doesn't want the Save America Act passed. This isn't about defending the sanctity of this rule. It's just a rule. It's not a law. Defending the sanctity of the filibuster or the Senate or whatever. This is about him being a shill, a middle manager, in effect, for the uniparty swamp on behalf of the deep state, on behalf of the globalist elite cabal, the New World Order, the powers and principalities, however you view it, the big bad guys. Thune is part of that cabal. And he's just a middle manager. I mean, he just like McConnell, okay? Just like Schumer. You know, there's certain times, not to go off on a tangent because I know I'm trying to keep today's show short, but you've got your upper echelon, and we don't know who most of those are. Like, depending upon your worldview, again, if you have a biblical worldview, I would say those are the powers and principalities. Those are non-humans, okay? And they're calling the shots on behalf of Satan. Below them, you got, like, you know, the George Soroses and Neville Roy Singhams of the world, right? Then you've got, you work your way down, you know, presidents of various countries and stuff. And then you got the middle managers. And that's where John Thune sits. That's his place in the hierarchy. He is a pawn, barely above a pawn. He's a bishop. I don't want to call him a knight because that sounds too regal for a guy like him. Let's see some of the stuff. Yes, Lindell did gather a lot of info. Eric Gray says, I loved Rubio at first, then he lost me with his support of red flag laws. And don't forget about Gang of Eight. You know, there's a lot of Rubio's he's a mover and a shaker who needs to drink lots of water before he goes out and speaks. We know that. He's loyal. And that is why I like him a lot more as a member of the cabinet than as a senator. And like, this is his role. This is what he does. This is what he's best at. He's been a legislator his whole life. I was following his career when he was in the state legislature in Florida. When he came up, I was supporting him, hardcore supporting him as a Tea Party candidate. And as soon as he got in there, John McCain got a hold of him. And his first couple of years, I thought, my gosh, we lost him. It took a long time for me to get to that point to where it's like, okay, all right, okay. I guess he's not awful. And then once he started doing his thing as Secretary of State and his other 32 positions in the government, it's like, okay, yeah, this is his place. I like him there. I just keep doing your thing, and we'll be okay. I don't know if y'all saw it. I don't think I have a clip of it. I don't. Yeah, I don't have a clip of it, but I did post it in various places. They were asking him about some journalist asked him about the divide is the word that they use between him and J.D. Vance, pertaining to the Iran situation, because there are those, and it's probably true. There are those who say that Rubio and Hegseth were against the memorandum of understanding. They didn't like what was being given away to Iran. They were opposed to it. But then you had J.D. Vance and President Trump coming out there and pushing for it. So the key there with Rubio is that even if he was against it, he's not throwing a fit. He's doing his job. he said, look, I can go out there and I can, there is no gap. There's, between him and Vance, which it probably is, but it doesn't matter. It's not for the public to know about. And he did the right thing. He said, look, I can advise, we can all, there's many of us that can advise the president, but ultimately this is his foreign policy. And we are here to fulfill his foreign policy. And so he's doing that. So like I said, I mean, I've got some questions about Rubio's style in the legislature, but as a cabinet member, I would say he's been one of the, maybe not top. He's not amongst the top. There's been some really good ones in this particular cabinet, but he's definitely above average. I mean, he's above the fold on this one, and so I like him. Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a fine job. Not sure. I know Trump seems to be leaning in his direction a lot of times for 2028. I don't know. I just don't know. I'll just leave it at that. We're still got to get through 2026. I will play one clip for you real quick. We'll break up the filibuster monotony with this. I thought this was very interesting and very telling, coming from Senator Rand Paul.
I think the president is an effective, person on getting votes and counting votes. And if he were back with us on the FISA reform, we could do something about it. But what they did to him in 2016, I know he hasn't forgotten it, but that whole Russia hoax was perpetrated on him by the intel agencies. And it's worse than people think. It was directly orchestrated by President Obama. He got his people together in January of 2016, and they said, this guy, Trump, is dangerous, and we're going to go after him. We're going to put evidence all throughout the intel agencies, and we're going to go after him and prove this Russia conspiracy thing, which really was a hoax. But they used the intel agencies to do it, and these intel agencies temporarily are under our control now. But as soon as it's the power that's a problem. You can't always have good people in charge of them. You've got to constrain their power legally. And I hope someday the president will come back and say, you know what, we do need a warrant requirement. Let's don't abuse Americans with this foreign intelligence surveillance court.
All right, what are we on, number 5? Well, I'm bouncing around anyway, so it doesn't matter. The 5th item on the list is Doge. Okay, Doge was able to do a lot. Did they do as much as they could have? No, because they kept getting hampered and stopped. And Doge should have been, and I know it technically still exists, but Doge should have been codified. This shouldn't have just been an executive action. Doge should have been, or at least a version of it, should be actually created. This is the only thing that I would ever want built into government that's not technically currently there, and that would be a variation of Doge, one that is still under the president's purview, but that gets actual real funding from Congress. And that's the only reason you don't want it codified, by the way. Otherwise, it did just fine. It did everything that it could do with the limited time. Of course, Elon Musk was limited to how much time he could spend on it, and of course, the capabilities they were on a shoestring budget, as they should have been, but they were able to demonstrate what I believe was proof of concept of what can be done. We can have nice things again, folks. We can. Just get Doge to start looking into everything, every aspect of government. Make it apply to the states, even not at a federal level, saying that every state should get their own version of Doge. This is the one expansion, we'll call it, of government that I would be okay with, because its intention is to dramatically reduce government. I think that if you had a proper Doge with proper teeth, that we could eliminate, at least 60%. I'd like to see 95%, but that'd be too unpopular. So we'll say 60% of government could be reduced. And I'm not necessarily talking about the footprint, talking more about the spending. They could fix a lot of the government spending just by exposing how redundant and stupid and ineffective and inefficient and corrupt and fraudulent that most of it is. And at the state level, if you had a true full-blown Doge at any given state's level, depending upon whether they're a red state or a blue state, there would be somewhere between 40 and 80% of their budgets recovered, we'll say, for the taxpayers. Now, again, as well as they did, with all of the amazing things they were able to do with Doge, they still didn't. It was just, it can be overturned. All of it. All of it can be undone with a signature from a future Democrat. And that sucks. That sucks. And it's not just the Doge stuff. It's pretty much everything that we've eliminated. Don't even get me started on USAID. USAID. That's my blood pressure starts rising anytime I think of that. But as I noted the other day, notice how with USAID gone, all of a sudden the right-wing governments are starting to win pretty much every election in Central and South America. That's crazy. What are the chances, right? There are no chances. That's obviously, very clearly, unambiguously, it was because of voter fraud that was funded by and run by probably the CIA through USAID. The deep state has been controlling these elections for a very long time. USAID has been their proxy, their arm, if you will. That's why it amazes me that it has been allowed. I was expecting something insane to happen. To Doge, to whatever. I thought they were going to do everything they could. I don't know exactly why it didn't happen. Why they didn't protect it. And in a way that scares me a bit. You know, I'd like to go along the lines of, you know, the Holy Spirit, God just said, you know, maybe they did try something, we never heard about it, and it was foiled. Great, awesome. Or maybe they have deep, dark, secret, evil plans of just letting it lay low while they make it more bulletproof, more Doge-proof, more Elon-proof, more Trump-proof, more Marco-proof. And then the next iteration is going to be a total and complete abomination. I hope that's not it. But either way, we need all of this codified. That's the solution. And the only way that we can get the Doge cuts codified, the USAID dismantling codified, the only way we can make these things permanent, or at least mostly permanent, is by getting rid of the filibuster. This is a big one. Okay, this is one where this should be super popular with the people. And yeah, I know Democrats aren't going to like it, but the Republican Party, if you presented it like this, and instead of just going after the filibuster and saying, oh, we got to get the Save America Act passed. I know that's important, but obviously, you know, just 80% popularity is not enough to sway John Thune from going against his puppet masters within the uniparty swamp, so we need something else. What about Doge? What if we say, look, here's a piece of legislation that codifies the Doge cuts, codifies USAID's dismantling, codifies this, you know, this reduction. Let's take it. Let's get it out on the floor. John Thune will say, we can't get it out on the floor. It's not going to pass. Well, it will get over 50 votes. So let's kill the filibuster. Just reason number 8, 9, 10, 15. I don't know how many reasons there are. There's not a ton, to be clear. It's not like, oh my gosh, let's get rid of the filibuster and let's pass 600 laws. That would be worse than the situation. Then that's the whole reason why I liked the filibuster in the beginning. You know, I've always liked the notion that there is an accountability over the majority. But that accountability has now hampered us, again, because of the aforementioned struggles, the great divide between the Democrat and the Republican Party today that just didn't exist before. So the only way we can do it is to take things that are super popular, super common sense, super no-brainers, take that to the base, get them going on and get President Trump talking about it on Truth Social, get Stephen Miller out there talking about it on CNN if they'll ever let him back on. Get whoever. Get Dan Bongino. Get Wendy Bell. Get all the great and popular podcasters out there talking about it and focusing on, hey, we need to get rid of the filibuster to codify Doge, to codify the USAID cuts. Maybe we could actually get something done. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing?
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Of all the various issues that I've talked about today, issues that give us a reason to get rid of the filibuster, reasons that we can pass some of this legislation, we should pass some of this legislation. We must pass some of this legislation. There's only one that comes really close to the whole notion of voter ID as far as popularity goes, and that is the border. I know that there's all these anti-ICE, anti-deportation things out there, but when it comes to the full-blown border security, when it comes to the slowing down, essentially the stopping up of the floodgates of illegal aliens coming into our nation, that is a super popular concept. I mean, we love it. Americans love it. Not just Republicans, Democrats love it as well. Some of them might not be willing to say it because it's not the woke thing to say. They have to be woke and say open borders, but deep down, yeah, they kind of want the borders to be closed the way they are. They want things to be normal. It's not that they're not being racist. They're not being against immigration. They just think that maybe we should slow down and have a little bit more control. That there's risks of terrorists and whatever. I'm sorry, that was a really bad impression of anybody. Okay, so it was a little bit spot on when it comes to certain leftists. Point being is that right, left, center, we want our borders to be secured and to stay secured. And we also know that if we don't get it codified, that the next Democrat president is just going to reverse all the things that President Trump has done so far and the things that have been extraordinarily pleasing. I'm not talking about ICE. That's a whole separate issue. That should be even more popular in my humble opinion, but there are still, we still have a population loaded with idiots. Every border victory was signed in pen and can be erased the same way. We have not passed immigration legislation, not with any real teeth. We need to pass immigration legislation that has real teeth, that codifies, it's my favorite word of the day. I love saying it, codifies the progress that we've made so far. Look closely at how the border was secured, and you'll notice something unsettling. Almost all of it rests on executive action, proclamations, agency directives, memoranda. Remain in Mexico, asylum limits, parole restrictions, interior enforcement priorities. Every one of them is real. Every one of them is working. And every single one of them can be reversed on the first afternoon of the next Democratic administration with nothing more than a signature. As quick as they came in, actually quicker than they came in, they can be reversed. We have lived this movie before. We watched a secure border dismantled by executive order. When? 2021. And we saw the results of that. We're still paying for the results of those actions. It will be far, far worse. The border was not as secure during President Trump's first administration as it is today, which means that the actions that they take, the Democrats, once they get control, those actions will be used to reverse what President Trump has been able to achieve in his second term. And when that reversal happens, if it happens, if we can stop it, we stop it. We stop it by getting rid of the filibuster, but I'm getting ahead of myself. If it remains status quo and there is another Democrat president soon, then it's going to be worse than 2021 through 2024. It will be worse. Cartels, they will understand and appreciate the ebb and flow of American politics, if they don't already, and they will know that they have 4 years to squeeze in as much infrastructure as possible. We thought that they were bad before. They will be even worse. There's only one way to make border security permanent, and that is to write it into law, mandatory national e-verify, so that a job in this country requires legal status. Defunding the sanctuary jurisdictions that shield criminals, not just your average illegal alien or immigrant. Sanctuary policies shield criminals, full-blown, oftentimes very violent criminals. We are not doing our immigrant communities any favor with sanctuary laws. We are doing them harm. So, let's get rid of them. Let's defund those sanctuary jurisdictions. Codifying Remain in Mexico so that no future president can simply cancel it. We had Remain in Mexico before. It worked. Joe Biden reversed it. Then all of a sudden, the floodgates opened up. Remain in Mexico is extraordinarily powerful because a lot of people come here with the direct intention. When I say a lot, I would say the vast majority of illegal aliens come here with the intention of, okay, I'm going to get across the border. I'm going to claim asylum, and then while I'm waiting years, maybe even over a decade for my asylum hearing, I'll be able to just get myself embedded, disappear into the interior. And that's exactly what happens. What was it, 90% never even show up for their hearing? Well, that stops if it's like, okay, cool. You came here, you filed for asylum, awesome. Now go back to Mexico and wait, and we'll call you. We'll let you know. Then it's like, oh, well, there's no point of even going because asylum will generally be denied. And then they would have made that dangerous and disturbing trek all the way up to the border, only to be stuck on the other side of the border, the Mexican side of the border, waiting to be rejected. So yeah, they just won't come. Duh. Kate's Law, with real penalties for those who are deported and return again, that's another one that's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want, you're better off self-deporting. That's one of the reasons that there have been so many self-deportations. There have been more self-deportations than deportations. Go figure. Each of these command majority support in the Senate, as well as the American population. Not one of them can survive a filibuster. This is the difference between a policy and a law. A policy lasts as long as the man in the Oval Office wants it to. A law endures until Congress changes it, and it's not very easy to change laws. Of course, there's also the judiciary. It's a whole other discussion. Right now, we are governing the border by executive whim, which means we are one election away from watching all of it disappear. And the cartels know it, the coyotes know it, and the millions waiting to cross, millions, maybe tens of millions, waiting to cross, they know it. Temporary enforcement is an invitation to just wait us out, and that's exactly what they're doing. The filibuster does not protect the border. It protects the open border status quo by guaranteeing that every gain we make can only ever be temporary. And here is the reciprocity the holdouts keep forgetting. The other side, the Democrats, they've talked about this. This will be one of the biggest reasons that they claim. They're going to pin it on ICE, of course, but it really is about open borders. One of the biggest things they will say and do, and reasons they'll give as to why they're getting rid of the filibuster, why they're doing that if they ever get control of the Senate again. It all comes down to this. They want to get rid of the racist things that stop a president from ever being racist again. They won't say open borders, but they'll I don't even know. Who cares? Let's just stop it. I don't even want to speculate. Let's just prevent this from happening. Make it into law. Make it into law. All of them. Every action that President Trump has taken at the border has worked beautifully. It has worked exactly as promised or better. Now, I'm not saying that the border policy has been perfect, but by golly, compared to what we had, it's not in the same realm, which is, again, why I would argue that whether they would admit it or not in a poll, reality is that the people, actual people, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, are very much in favor of, to the tune, I would say, of about 80%. Again, you couldn't get that number in a poll, but you could get that number if you stuck them with truth serum and said and laid it all out for them accurately. I would say 80% of Americans are just fine with the border policies. Take out ICE, take out deportations, take out, all that stuff. Everything else is very popular. Very popular. And so we need to not allow Democrats to remove it, at least not easily. And the way to do that, as we've said all day, end the filibuster.
If you walk through this door now, you're walking into a world of trouble. And there's no turning back. You understand?
Yes, I do.
Good.
I'm sorry, but that's an underrated movie. I'm not sorry. It's underrated. It was kind of cheesy, but there's some scenes in it. Stellar scenes. I was going to go ahead and keep it super short today and not talk about the Save America Act. And then this came up. And this is all the proof you need that the the rhinos, the Republican side of the uniparty swamp is vehemently opposed to voter integrity. Governor DeWine, Mike DeWine from Ohio, is the rhino's rhino. He is purely despicable. He's not as bad as John Thune, though. But he vetoed, so the legislation passed mail-in ballots, or voter ID for mail-in ballots. They've always had mail-in, or not always, but you get the idea. Sorry, this just really ticks me off. Legislature passed voter ID for mail-in ballots, very similar to the Save America Act. It's very similar to the thing that vast majority of Americans, Republicans and Democrats and independents, all want. Legislature gave it to them, and Mike DeWine vetoes it. Vetoed it last night. It didn't hit my radar until just now. The fight for voter integrity does not appear to be over in the Buckeye State. In vetoing the bill, DeWine released a statement noting that the bill would not discourage fraud, would not add any real security, and would create an additional and significant burden for Ohioans who vote by mail. Now let's just address that, and I'm going to take this off the screen because I don't want to spit today. The Save America Act does not add unnecessary burden. It makes it to where, for those who aren't fully familiar, it makes it to where you have to go in to register to vote. You can't vote online, or you can't register online. You can't register by mail. You have to go in and show your ID. Now, the Jim Crow Democrats and the idiot DeWines and Thunes of the world, they'll tell you that the burden is too hard, that there are millions of people out there, millions of Americans who just, they don't have ready access to the type of ID that would be required, and therefore it would discourage them from registering and voting. Now, I would argue that it's not millions of Americans. It is millions of illegals that are being protected by the lack of going in to register to vote. That's it. It's just the illegals. I don't know anybody who doesn't have an ID or couldn't get one very easily. I mean, are they talking about homeless people? Because, I mean, how do you get an apartment or a house? How do you get a loan? How do you sign a lease? How do you get a job if you don't have access to an ID? It makes no sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to placate you and to give you a gobbledygook excuse about why they are against election integrity. Now, I know John Thune hasn't been saying this stuff, but you will hear him say this stuff if he's pressed. In other words, if something were to happen, if he is cornered and has to, and it looks like the Save America Act could actually pass, he will be the first one to suddenly say that it's too oppressive. They combine two things here, and if you think about them, they contradict each other. On one hand, they say there are millions of Americans that would be negatively affected by requiring ID in order to register to vote. On the other hand, they say that it's not an issue, that there just isn't enough voter fraud taking place in order to justify it. Those don't jibe if you think about it. Because the people that currently are voting without ID, if the challenge there is that millions of them wouldn't be able to vote and they're all legally able to vote in federal elections, then why would we not just pass this? Why wouldn't we defend against those people, illegal aliens, namely, as well as, I don't know, dead people, people that aren't supposed to be able to vote because they're no longer alive? What about people that can't go and register to vote in, say, California, unless they drive out there because they're no longer in California? The only thing being defended by preventing the Save America Act from passing, the only thing being defended is voter fraud. And the only entity, if you want to call it an entity, I do, that's being defended is the uniparty swamp. So yeah, the Save America Act is a national defense concern. The Save America Act is a solution. It's not a perfect solution, especially the House version. The House version, which is the one that it would have to be the House version in order to pass, because Susan Collins has already agreed to that one. She doesn't like the Senate version. It adds a few things, and they're all nice to have things, but if we can just get the basics across the finish line, just get the House version, eliminate the filibuster, pass the Save America Act, pass everything else I've talked about today, and we can have nice things again here in the nation. So here's your task and mine. Number one, pray. Always pray. Pray constantly. Pray that the Lord will intervene and make John Thune an offer he can't refuse, make Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski or whoever. I'm not even, I don't have to, something important. When you pray for the result. Don't necessarily pray for how it's going to happen. I had an amazing prayer story. I wish I could tell you it. Just today. like I say a prayer and 9 seconds later it's answered. Praise God. But yeah, pray for America. Number two, start talking about this stuff. When you say Save America Act today, a lot of people just get bent out of shape. I think it was Eric the Great who noted that maybe we should change the name. Stop talking about it as Save America Act because it triggers the left too much. Okay, call it the Voter ID Act. I don't care. Say, do you support voter ID? Ask. And if they say no, then they're idiots and just wipe the dust off your feet and move on, right? But if you do go down that road, talk about that, but talk about the other things as well. Reciprocity is a no-brainer. Okay, ending the Department of Education, and always make sure to note, ending the Department of Education and helping to fund states. Got to make sure that the Democrats understand that this isn't to hurt education. This is to help education by making it more localized. Again, no-brainer. Saving a baby's life who's been born after a failed abortion, no-brainer. It's easy. Defunding Planned Parenthood, a little tougher. Got to admit, that's a tougher push. Trying to get Democrats to embrace that. Probably can't. It's worth a shot. You can try. Doge should be a no-brainer. Even the people that were against Doge, if you don't mention the word Doge, you could probably say, hey, yeah, eliminate fraud. Eliminate inefficiency in the government. We've already done that. Now we should codify that. Oh, yeah, okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. How do we codify it? Eliminate the filibuster. Oh. But then won't that mean, yeah? Okay. We got to get this information out in front of the senators, in front of John Thune, people in the Trump administration, people at the state and local level. Just like they were able to pass it in Ohio, we should be able to pass it in other states as well. Get a version of the Save America Act passed in every red state, every purple state. Hope that they don't have a governor like Mike DeWine. Just thinking out loud here. We can have nice things again. I promise it. We got to pray and get the word out. Pray and get the word out. Start talking about more than just the Save America Act. Pick your doesn't have, you don't have to talk about all 7. Pick your favorite one to talk about and start talking about it. Pick something else. I just put together a list. There's 15 others out there. Good quality pieces of legislation. Some have been in the works or on the table, unmoved because of the filibuster for years, even decades. Others haven't even been tried yet because it's like, well, no way we're going to get that over the filibuster, so why even try? Pick something, because our nation is at the edge of a cliff, and we've got 1 or 2, maximum 3, I would say it's more realistically 2, this cycle, 2028. By 2030, Democrats will have control of the House or the Senate or both if we don't get the Save America Act passed. They will have control, not because they earned it, but because they cheated. John Thune knows this. John Thune wants this. Here's something I think everybody needs to understand. Mitch McConnell thrived as Senate Minority Leader. That was his jelly roll. Okay, that's where he was a very good fundraiser and herder of Republicans in his caucus when they are in the minority. John Thune wants to do the same thing. It benefits John Thune to be the Senate Minority Leader. All of the screaming and hollering that he wants to do with no risks of anything actually happening. We saw the McConnell version of this, of course, through John McCain after they were able to get it almost there. They were so close. They were so close to repealing Obamacare. And Mitch McConnell pushed the panic button. It's like, oh, crap, I need a sacrificial lamb to make some stupid excuse, because if not, we're going to actually repeal Obamacare, and we don't want to do that. So John, you're up. And yeah, John McCain tank it. Don't forget, they'd passed like 51 versions of repealing Obamacare when they knew that Barack Obama would veto it. The moment they had Trump in office, they couldn't get anything passed. Why? Because they never actually wanted to repeal Obamacare. Same thing's happening here with the Save America Act. And again, it might sound futile. It might be like, man, there's nothing we can do. Well, you know what? There are 2 things we can do. We can pray, and we can spread the word. We have to fight the good fight. We don't know what's going to happen. This is not in our control. And you don't know what your role is in any of this. I don't know what my role is in any of this. I just know that whatever it is that I do, as it pertains to politics, culture, faith, or anything, I have to do what's right for my conscience, for my soul. I look to God and ask, what am I supposed to do, God? But I know that no matter what, it is to keep fighting. We got to keep fighting. You think it's futile? You think there's no chance? I don't want to hear that. Again, I said it earlier. I didn't think there was ever a chance we could get Roe v. Wade overturned. It happened. And now we butchered the results, unfortunately. Finally got our wish, and then now the pro-life movement is taking victory laps still, years later. Makes no sense. 4 years, abortions have gone up. How is that possible? But don't get me started on that. We need the Save America Act. We need to secure our elections, secure our nation. And getting rid of the filibuster is the only way to do it. All right, that's it. Lord willing, I'll be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, y'all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.